And staying in France, a former surgeon is set to stand trial for the alleged rape or sexual abuse of 299 victims, most of them children who were his patients. Investigators describing it as a pattern of violence spanning over 3 decades. Claire Paccalin joins me now from the Brittany town of Rouen. Claire, tell us more about this case.
It is staggering when it comes to the scale, the magnitude. 299 victims. The surgeon, Joël Le Squarnec, he wrote down, police found what they call the black notebooks of Joël Le Squarnec. They found these notebooks in his home. He had meticulously written down the names of the children, their ages, what he had done to them and how it had made him feel. He worked in various different hospitals here in the west of France, and he was an abdominal surgeon, so he was regularly carrying out operations to remove the appendix of his child patients. Now, sometimes the children were under a general anaesthetic, so they were completely asleep. Sometimes they were just waking up from having been under an anaesthetic, and in other cases they were more awake. But many were unaware of what had happened. Many simply didn't understand because they were children. And it was many years later when they were contacted by police while police were doing their investigation, and they were told that their names were in Joël Le Squarnec's notebook. And we are expecting to hear from many of those victims during this court case. It will last 4 months, and we're expecting to hear about the impact it's had on their lives, many of them saying that they have struggled in their lives with intimacy, with forming relationships, with anxiety and with depression too. So we are expecting to hear their voices during this court case.
How was he able to get away with it for some 30 years? Weren't there any alarm bells?
Well, one of the reasons was that he moved from hospitals and clinics. So he worked in around 15 different places over the 30-year period. He says, and this is during the investigation, he said to the police that he was invaded by paedophilic thoughts when he was in his mid-30s. So that was in the mid-1980s. So certainly it was hard for him to be detected because he kept moving from different places. But a big question mark is how on earth, after he was convicted in 2005 for having looked at child pornography online of a particularly violent nature, he was convicted of that, and yet he was allowed to continuing practicing as a doctor, and of course often coming into contact with children. He was given a 4-year prison sentence for that conviction. That was in 2005. A 4-month suspended prison sentence. So 4 months suspended meant he was not behind bars at any point at all, and he was not required to undergo any kind of psychological treatment. He was allowed to continue practicing. So big question marks as to how on earth that was allowed to happen. And of course the victims in this case want answers.
Claire Paccalin reporting there from Vaughan. Thank you.